in? Isn't that good, that cheesecake? Oh, totally. Yeah, nice. All right. Well, thank you everyone for being here. Open house, a little variety show of all kinds of classes throughout the day. So today, right now, 1 o'clock, Dayle Bixby, she runs a little shop called As Above. And she shared a little bit about that and insight into medical astrology. What is that all going to be about, huh? Follow astrology a little bit. Somebody told me we just entered the full moon in Capricorn. I couldn't tell you what that means, but here we are. There we are.
That's pretty good.
Okay. Yeah. You'll give us all the insights.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And all right. Any questions, anything like that? We'll save them for the end and we'll get into it.
Okay.
So, thanks so much, Dayle, for being here. I'll give everyone a little jaunt to come on in.
Thanks, Malcolm.
All right. Thanks, Dayle.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming in. So yes, I'm Dayle Bixby. I like to call myself a holistic mystic. You like that? Yeah, okay. You are my people. So holistic in the fact that I'm a herbalist and I look at treating a person body, mind, soul, spirit, and socially as well. I feel like community is a big part of our well-being. So that's kind of the holistic side. And then mystic as in I'm an astrologer and an energy worker and a tarot reader, and that list kind of goes on as well. And for me, being truly holistic means bringing it all together. So one of my favorite things in the world is medical astrology. So I'm super excited to talk to you guys about it today. What is the knowledge level or comfort level with astrology in general? Who would say that they're like brand new to astrology? A couple people, okay. Who would say that they're very well versed in astrology? Somewhere in the middle? And then I'm guessing most people are in the middle somewhere. Okay, amazing. That helped me to know how deep I should go. But yeah, I will ask another question. Raise your hand if you knew that during the Renaissance, all physicians were astrologers. No? Okay. Yeah. Some people are hearing that. Yeah. So this information is getting out there. Yeah. But it's been hidden for a long time. And in fact, the medical industry, or what would have been herbalism back in the day, regardless of where you were. So in ancient Greece, ancient India, China, America, the healers used the stars and the planets with plants to not only diagnose, but treat person, body, mind, and soul. So in fact, medical astrology was the norm up until the late 1800s. And then any ideas what may have changed at that point? Big pharma. Yeah, exactly. It was big pharma, right? Oil and gas. Yeah. All of the money, the Rockefellers. Yeah. Yeah. That's right. And that's where the money is, right? And that's where the control is also, right? It's harder to control people if they know what medicine is right outside your door and how to use the stars and the planets to understand the effect that it's really bringing forth in our bodies every day. So it does date back to the Greek physicians. And in fact, Hippocrates said himself that a physician without knowledge of astrology has no right to call himself a physician. Okay. That was the norm, 100%. So what they would do is take a look at your natal chart. How many people have had their natal chart read or they're aware of it? Okay. So a couple people. So basically the natal chart is where the planets were, the sun, the moon, all the planets, where exactly they were at the moment of your birth. And that natal chart is an imprint of the cosmic forces, the celestial forces into our physical being. Okay, so you could almost say it's like your cosmic blueprint, your natal chart. We're so much more than our sun sign. So many people are familiar with the sun sign. I'm a Leo. Any other Leos in the room? Oh, okay, couple, nice. And we generally know what that means, right? People, you read your horoscope in the paper. This has been around for a long time, but we're so much more than that. We are our moon sign and our Mars and our Venus and Mercury. And so where were all these planets? What were they doing the moment that we were born? And why is that important, right? So it does really, it tells you not only about your physical being, but your emotional being, your spiritual being. So I do have some handouts. So if you wanted to take one, pass them around. Thank you so much. And we'll kind of get into like what this all means and why it's important for your health. So in connection with the planets are also the signs. So your sun sign, I'm a Leo. That means the sun was in Leo when I was born. But my moon was in Cancer. The moon was in Cancer, right? So the zodiac signs and the planets, these together for your natal chart is really what determines your constitution, because everyone's different. We have all the planets, we have all the signs, we have all the elements within ourselves, but it's going to vary. They're in different levels, right? So the ancient astrologer physicians would want to take a look at your natal chart to see what does that makeup look like for each individual person. Does that make sense? Okay, cool. Yes. I do. Yes, I sure do. Yeah, for sure. I'll repeat it. So the planets plus the zodiac signs that they're in is what determines, at the moment of your birth, is what determines your physical, your mental, your emotional constitution, is what they would call it. Okay. And based on that, this is why different plants work for different people. Okay. Plants themselves have a constitution that aligns with astrology as well. We have certain plants that are ruled by Mars or ruled by the moon. And they're going to interact with you differently depending on what your natal chart is saying. Okay. So kind of looking at the handout here, I've listed out the different zodiac signs and their elements and the body parts and organ systems that they rule. So it's cool the way that it works out because it's really from head to toe. So Aries starts at the head. Aries rules the head, the face, the eyes, the ears, all of that. And then it moves down the body and we end up with Pisces, who rules the feet and the toes and all of that. So it's interesting. I know so many Aquariuses who have problems with their ankles. They're breaking their ankles, they're spraining their ankles. My brother actually, he just a year ago, he's an Aquarius and he's going through his Saturn return. I don't know if anyone knows what that means. Basically, it's a moment in your life when you could be prone to injury. There's a lot of lessons happening at that time in your life. And he broke his ankle and it hasn't really healed very well since. And he's an Aquarius and that's just something that he needs to watch out for. So based on your sun sign, you can take a look here and see what body part your sun sign is ruling. And then that can give you an indication of maybe predispositions to dis-ease or injury that you might have. Or on the flip side, it could give you an indication of something that's really strong for you. So Leo is ruled by the sun. So having your sun sign in Leo means you probably typically have a very strong heart, chest, spine, and upper back because the sun likes to be in Leo. Okay, so I'm going to break this down a little bit. The planets have certain signs that they love being in and they will strengthen your constitution, but then they have signs that they do not like being in, and they will weaken your constitution. So that's another thing that a medical astrologer is going to look for to see any predispositions to injury, illness, disease, all those things. Okay, cool. All right. Any questions on this so far? I know Malcolm said questions at the end, but I'm open if there's questions now. No? Okay. All right. I know for those who are online, when Malcolm gets back, we'll get to your questions. Okay. All right. So that's kind of the signs and how they work. And what we would look at as a medical astrologer, and I don't think that there's too many medical astrologers these days, but it's coming back. The herbalism school that I went to was run by a medical astrologer, and he's bringing these doctrines back together. Thank goodness is right. Yeah. It's pretty amazing because there's so much wisdom that we lost, that was taken from us, I should say. It's not like we lost it. It was literally stolen. Yeah, so it's very cool. The first planets that I look at when I'm doing a medical astrology reading for my clients are Mars and Saturn. And that's because these planets tend to be, well, they're called the malefics. They have harsher energy. Mars is the warrior planet. It's very active. It's aggressive. It rules conflict, our warrior spirit, our sex drive, all of these things, but it brings destruction. It's fiery and inflammation. So depending on where Mars is in your chart, that's one of the things I would look to, because we could see inflammation in that area of the body. It's really interesting. Mars can also show us where you're probably likely to break a bone and have that kind of injury. The other planet that I look at is Saturn. And Saturn is the cold teacher of hard lessons. That's how I like to explain it. It's another destructive force. It represents melancholy, dryness, tension. So depending on where Saturn is in your chart, you could like suffer from depression. That could be one of the indications there, because it is that melancholy, that dryness, or tension. So anything where, I'm trying to think of a really good example, constipation. Yeah, chronic constipation. That would be Saturn's influence. The other planet that I like to look at is Pluto. But what's interesting about Pluto, and it's not on the sheet, because back in the day, they didn't know about Pluto. The Greek physicians, it hadn't been discovered yet. So a lot of this information that we have on medical astrology comes from back then. And now we're just relearning, re-experiencing. And now that we're aware of Pluto, I like to look at it because it's a higher octave of Mars. So knowing that Pluto kind of carries that destructive Mars energy, of course, it's something that I'm going to look at. It's also related to the cycle of death and rebirth, darkness, the shadow, deep transformation. So by reviewing Pluto, what I've noticed within my clients is that it is definitely another one of those planets that's going to indicate these certain things. Okay. That's just me. So for example, so looking at the sheet again, so we have the planets there. The planets are also, they rule certain body parts. So the sun rules the heart, the moon rules the ovaries. And then so we can see what some of those predispositions to dis-ease might be based on that. I'm gonna test you guys a little bit here based on this information and the sheet that you have. So you have your planets, you have your zodiac signs. If your Saturn is in Aries, what might you suffer from? Yeah.
Headaches or jaw issues.
Yeah.
Or eye problems.
Yep. Headaches, jaw issues, eye problems, eye strain, right? Memory loss. Yep. Absolutely. Dementia. Potentially later in life, that might be something to watch out for. Yeah.
How do you combat?
Yes. How do you combat that? So I feel like, well, for me, the awareness of it, right? Knowing that you have this predisposition, well, now I can watch out for it. If I'm an Aquarius, I'm going to be careful with my ankle. You know, I'm not going to join the circus or start taking acrobatics or anything like that, unless, you know, well, Aquariuses, they do what they want. So maybe I actually would. But you would have that awareness. Sorry? Exactly. Strap them up, right? You can take precautions because now you have this information and you know that this is a potential that's going to happen. So you can be more aware of it and prevent it. Yeah. Well, I would make sure that that person probably has bone set on them all the time. Bone set is very good. Yeah, or anything, yeah, that's good to have good minerals in it, nettles. I would say, yeah, things like that. Yes. So the question is affirmations or verbal. So thank you. I'm going to segue a little bit with this question because as a holistic mystic, I'm not just looking at the physical for a person, right? And that just gave me a chill. So that's a confirmation. I firmly believe, and what I've seen with my clients is that not only is it astrology, it's the as above, so below, but it's the spiritual influence that causes a lot of illness and disease in a person. So affirmations, reprogramming the subconscious, removing limiting beliefs, meditation, these are things that I regularly prescribe to my clients. Yeah. And in fact, I've actually changed my practice a little bit. And I'm focusing more on the spiritual side of things. I shouldn't say more on, but that's kind of that's the main draw for my clients now, because I had some clients come to me who were not as open or accepting of my approach. So I just wanted to be really upfront that when you come to see me, yes, I'm going to treat whatever physical ailment or suffering that you're having, but I'm going to suggest some deeper work, probably some shadow work. There's going to be some things that you need to focus on. And I just want people to be prepared. So thank you for that question. Yeah. All right, here's another test for you guys. What if your Mars was in Libra? Oh, you don't have that paper? Oh, sorry. Oh, it's the same. It's the same. It's just printed differently. Lower back pain, kidney stones, inflammation of, sorry? No. Oh. Libra. It's the same. It's just printed differently. Oh, I see. Yeah, sorry. Fever. Yeah. Libra rules the skin. It rules like the kidneys, the urinary tract. Yeah. Perhaps cuts on the buttocks. Yeah. You could see urinary tract infections, kidney stones, things like that as well. Yeah. Oh, obesity. I'm gonna say that's like Taurus energy. Yeah. And what I would look for is, yeah, I would look for like probably a lot of Taurus in the chart. And where like probably Jupiter is Jupiter and Venus, I would say, are the two planets that I would really look at, because Jupiter is about excess. Jupiter is about indulgence, and yeah, it's very expansive also, so it has that. And then Venus is about pleasure and indulgence and just enjoying life. And Venus can also make us a little bit lazy sometimes. So those are the planets I would look at for that. Yeah. Yeah. All right. Any other questions on this part so far? Okay. So I don't have it on the sheet, but if you want to take notes, what I'm going to talk about a little bit more is the spiritual and karmic nature of medical astrology. So I've studied Ayurveda as well, and Ayurveda dates back over 5,000 years in India. And part of Ayurveda is there's this understanding that sometimes disease can be spiritual or karmic in nature. And it's called the Prabhava. So medical astrology tells us that as well, which is very cool. So what I would look at for that is the South Node. Do you want to write that down? The south like south, north, south, yeah, northeast, southwest, South Node. Yep. Because the South Node, and what the South Node is, there's a few different schools of thought on what the nodes are in astrology. In Western astrology, you will hear that they're mathematical calculations based on where the moon is. In Vedic astrology from India, they're literally entities. Rahu and Ketu are what they're called. And they are invisible entities that are up there doing fun spiritual stuff. So the South Node represents, it can represent actually genetic or ancestral patterning. So if there's genetic predispositions, the South Node could indicate that, as well as ancestral trauma. But it also shows us our karma from our past life. So what are we taking from the past life? If you believe in it, I do, from what I've seen. And it can show us areas what we need to release and what we need to let go in this lifetime. But often, because it's from our past life, it feels so familiar, we hang on to it. And so it's really hard to let go. And this often shows up as, it can show up as autoimmune disease, chronic conditions, deficiencies, weaknesses in the body, mental health as well. And yeah, definitely the ancestral patterning as well. So that's something that I would look at. Do I do past life? Kind of. I do, yes. So part of when I'm reading a chart also, I'm channeling. I'm learning that I'm a psychic medium. I think I've always known. I'm accepting that I'm a psychic medium as well. So information does come through, and sometimes it's very clear that this is connected to a past life. It's something that I'm developing. Side note, my shop, as above, we do have practitioners there who do hypnotherapy, past life regressions as well. Yeah. It is on 17th Avenue and 24th Street Southwest, kind of like off Crowchild. Yeah. Yeah. When I take a new client, it's like a 90-minute session to talk about, okay, where are you feeling stuck? Where are you blocked? What kind of issues are you experiencing? And let's dive deep into it. I'll pull up your chart as well, and really take a look at everything and see how it's interconnected in order to develop a treatment plan recommendation. And the treatment plan could be, like I said, meditation, shadow work, things like that, as well as energy work. Sometimes I do tarot readings, one-on-one meditations, herbs, of course. I'm always including plants in my treatments as well. Yeah. Yeah. The which? Nettle? Oh, sorry. I'm not sure. Oh, the natal chart. I'm sorry. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. She didn't know. Yeah, so this is a common question. So the question is, do you need to know the exact time for your natal chart? As close as possible. is good. With medical astrology, it doesn't have to be exact. There's more wiggle room when we're doing medical astrology, because I'm going to know more or less where your planets are, and that doesn't change too much. If you have a general idea, like the early hours of the morning, we can play with it a bit to see what fits best. Yeah, so the hospital does know, the hospital keeps records.
You also contact the other.
Order your best, or whatever province. You order your birth documents, not your birth certificate, right, but your birth documentation. And they'll be all detailed as to what time. Report the hospital. Yeah, it's on mine. They just have that document.
Yeah. Yeah, so if your hospital doesn't exist or it's hard to find, like, there are probably I mean, every government is gonna we know that they keep tabs on all of us. Yeah, so you'll be able to get it. There's usually a charge for it. Yeah, but there are ways, and hospitals do keep good records. Sometimes you have to call a couple times because they will tell you, oh no, we don't keep that, but they absolutely do. Absolutely, yeah. Okay, then on the opposite side of the south node, there's the north node. And the north node represents our future or our destiny. It's really, what is your path, your purpose? It's a key evolutionary part of this lifetime that you're currently in. It's really what you're meant to learn, embody, experience, express. Now, what's interesting with the north node is that it's unfamiliar to us because we're doing it for the first time. This is something that's supposed to help us level up in our spirit, in our spiritual journey. So it's unfamiliar, it's uncharted territory that we're meant to learn how to navigate. So it can cause a lot of anxiety, mental health, depression, avoidance. It could be areas of our life where, here's a good example. If your north node is in Aries, for example, Aries north node would be about learning what you want, what's best for you, who am I, and what is my like me. It's all about me, the Aries north node. But that would mean your south node is in Libra, so that person could fall into people pleasing and that kind of trajectory for their life very easily, and find it really hard to tap into what they want and what they need in this lifetime. So that would be a struggle so that's why I would look to the north node if someone is struggling with something like that. Okay. And the last one that I would look at is Chiron. Chiron is spelled Chiron. Chiron. R-O-N. Chiron. Yeah. And Chiron is an asteroid that is very influential in astrology. And it's known as the wounded healer. So it typically represents a deep soul wound that we're carrying from early childhood or a past life. And it teaches us, like, some of our most powerful healing, some of our most powerful medicine comes from our wounds. And that's what Chiron teaches us, is how to view the wound from a different view, how to learn from it and transform it, transmute it into medicine so that we can help other people who have a similar wound. That's really the whole point of Chiron. But that's hard, deep work, right? Yeah. So that's definitely something I look at in someone's chart. I'm like, all right, let's get in there.
Some that come around is in the rotation.
Yeah.
Every so many years. So why that particular?
Well, that asteroid is, yeah, because there are tens of thousands that we could pull in an astrological chart. But because this one is the wounded healer, that's why we look at it. And this is a really interesting question to me, because how do we know that Chiron is the wounded healer, right? How do we know that the moon represents our intuition? And how do we know that Saturn represents our tough lessons and our karma? Like, how do we know that? So I love this question, because how do we know which plant is good for which ailment, right? Like, how do we know that dandelion root is great for the liver? It wasn't because we tried dandelion root for a headache, and then we tried it for, you know, our skin, and then we tried it for the liver and finally figured it out, right? I feel, and also what I've experienced by working with plants and planets is that they speak to us. They tell us. Plants communicate with us, the planets communicate with us. And I feel like way back in the day, when these guys were figuring this out, they had a much closer relationship with the planets. They were studying them every day. They were communicating with them. They were watching them. That's how clocks and calendars were created, right? So because that relationship was so strong, yeah, they were able to pull this knowledge together. Yeah. Yeah. You just know, exactly, right? There's that intuition that animals do have as well. And yeah, it's designed into us, and it's all we have electromagnetic communication with everything all the time. And so do animals, and so do plants, and the planets, of course, are communicating with us. I feel like lately they've been screaming at us. I don't know if you guys have been feeling it. I'm feeling it. Yeah. So by reviewing these planets in particular, I feel that we can really dive deeper into psychological concerns or physiological complaints that seem to manifest without explanation. Like, I had a client, and again, this is another Aquarius example, but her ankle was swelling for no reason. She saw her doctor, she saw her naturopath, she tried all these things. There was no pain, no injury, no reason that her ankle would just, and only the one, and it would swell to like triple the size on and off. And so when I looked at her chart, it was obvious to me that there was Aquarius influence there. And I just told her to meditate with her ankle and ask it, what is it trying to tell me? It was happening on her left ankle, which is the feminine side. And Aquarius, she wasn't an Aquarius, she was a Scorpio. But Aquarius is the collective. It's how are we as an individual showing up within the collective. And because this was manifesting for her, that's where my mind went. That's what we looked at. And she started to meditate on it. It was making sense to her. She was kind of reviewing, when did this flare up and what was happening in my life. And it all kind of clicked into place, and it stopped. The swelling just stopped. It's never come back. This was 2 years ago, as an example. Yeah, so I feel like once we have a good understanding of our natal chart, of the transits that are happening, because the natal chart is one piece of it. Those are the planets that stamp when we were born, but then the planets keep moving, and they're always moving. And as they're moving, they're communicating with us, they're affecting us in different ways. And that's when we can really see, oh, you broke your bone on this day. Well, that's because Mars was aspecting this part of your chart and caused that broken bone. Yeah, it's wild. So if the sky has such a profound influence on our health, then the Earth's influence must be just as strong, if not stronger, right? And this is where, for me, I love working with plants and planets together. knowing that we have the information to determine which planets are affecting our health, then we can work with the plants that have an affinity for that planet or that zodiac sign. And that's how we can really match these medicines together, okay? So for example, if we want to treat a Mars influenced condition, and I think of like urinary issues, just thinking Mars in Libra, so hot, inflamed urinary tract. We can look to a Mars ruled plant like nettle. Nettle is great for the urinary tract. It really helps to flush that out and remineralize. Mars and Mars, so that's kind of like for like. But if that doesn't work for you because you have way too much Mars in your chart, and it could make the inflammation worse, right? Too much of a good thing sometimes. Then I would look at probably a Venus ruled plant like cleavers. So cleavers also has a great affinity for the urinary tract, but it's a little bit gentler and it works in a different way. And because it's ruled by Venus, it's going to be a bit softer. It's going to be a bit more, just like the word gooey is coming up in my mind. I don't know why. But yeah, so that's how we would figure that out. Yeah. Yeah.
What determines now Mars and over to Mars?
Yeah. Great question. So how do we know which planets and zodiac signs the plants are related to? Again, I think it goes back to that intuition and that knowledge and that communication that we used to have. But we can also look at like Mars is an angry, aggressive kind of planet, and nettle hurts you when you touch it, right? It's very pokey. So there's like the doctrine of correspondences and the doctrine of signatures that we look at to determine that. Jupiter is big and expansive. So a lot of plants that are ruled by Jupiter are going to be huge and they take up a lot of room, as an example. Yeah. Yeah. So another way that we can work with the stars is it's a cycle, right? So tracking the cycle. The moon moves through each sign every month. It goes through a full cycle through all the signs. So you can look into your personal rhythms and notice, well, when the moon is in Virgo, maybe I have terrible digestion because Virgo rules that area, right? The intestines and all that. Or maybe my digestion is great when the moon is in Virgo. Yeah. In 1 month, yeah. So yeah, every planet has a transit around the zodiac wheel, and which is the sky. And the moon moves very fast. It spends about 2.5 to 3 days in each sign before moving to the next one. Yeah. So right now the moon is in Capricorn. I think tomorrow it's going to be moving into Aquarius. Yeah. Yeah. Watch your ankles. Yeah, but then the sun moves through each sign throughout the year, right? So each month, astrological month, the sun is in a different sign. So maybe that's why you feel great in the summer, because those signs, Cancer, Leo, Virgo, are working well with your chart. And then maybe the winter signs, Capricorn, Aquarius and Pisces, they just don't work well for your chart, right? So these are things that you can pay attention to and start to anticipate, because when you know, oh, the moon's about to go into this sign or the sun's about to go into this sign, I need to start drinking more water. I need to watch my ankles. I need to do these things, right? Yeah, so that's another way that you can kind of start thinking about medical astrology in your day-to-day lives. Any final questions? Yes, that's my card for the shop. And I have a little pamphlet. Well, I don't know. It's a takeaway for the shop as well, because we do lots of things. not just medical astrology. Yeah. Call and book in advance. You can go on the website. We have the Instagram. We have all of the things. Yeah. Many practitioners. Okay. No social media. Good for you.
I'm missing out.
Well, thank you guys so much. That's a very brief introductory medical astrology intro. It goes so much deeper, but thank you for your time and all your questions. I appreciate it.
All right. Okay, well, Dale's here if you want to connect with her. She's got her cards and little brochures. Yeah, that's something I know hardly anything about. I'm so curious. And yeah, and feel free to visit Dayle at her little shop there. And so we got a little bit more time till the next top of the hour. We have Ken Walters, who's going to be giving a presentation. He's also currently just outside sampling his fermented spirulina, which go beyond the smell and drink some and go for the taste. It's or not the taste, the feelings of it.
Feelings of it. Yeah.
For sure. What it'll do for you. So yeah, thanks a
Thank
lot,
you so
Dayle.
much. Yeah.
And we'll get started again at our next top of the hour. So
Perfect.
all right.
Thank you guys.